Good evening. I now call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Oak Grove School District on February 16th, 2023 at 5:06 p.m. May I have a motion and second to approve the agenda as submitted?
I move to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Seeing none, the agenda has been approved as submitted. The board will recess to closed session to discuss public employee performance evaluation of the superintendent, public employee discipline release dismissal, government code section 54957, and student discipline case number 212201 and case number 222302. Persons wishing to address the board on closed session items may use the raise your hand Zoom feature to speak. Please reference the agenda item number in your public comment. You will have 3 minutes to speak. Is there anyone to speak to these items?
There are no virtual comments.
Seeing none in person, we will now recess to closed session and return at approximately 6 p.m. Thank you. Good evening. Welcome to the regular board meeting of February 16th, 2023. It is now 6:04 PM and we have returned from closed session. I welcome everyone to our board meeting. I want to take this opportunity to thank all of our Black educators and families that are a part of our Oak Grove community. I also challenge everyone to take some time to learn and appreciate the work of some amazing Black leaders in our community and beyond. During our regular board meeting, there are many opportunities for the public to address the board, public hearings, public comment, or during a specific agenda item. If you wish to speak to the board, please complete the online request to speak form or use the raise your hand feature when the agenda item is reached. This will help me better manage the meeting. When it is your turn to speak, your microphone will be unmuted and you will have 3 minutes to speak before the microphone is muted. The Brown Act governs meetings of governmental bodies in California. Your comments to the board must be specific to the agenda item you are addressing. And if there is no specific item, you are welcome to present comments during public comment. The Brown Act permits public criticism of the district's policies, programs, and services and of board members' action. Constitutional First Amendment free speech rights permit the public to criticize employees' job performance. However, the board will not listen to personal attacks, name calling, or the ridiculing of employees. This is not a public forum for public debate. The land acknowledgement We acknowledge that Oak Grove School District and our schools occupy the unceded territory of the Muwekmi Ohlone Nation, the sovereign nation, and original people of the skies, land, and waters where we work and learn. The Muwekmi Ohlone people are the stewards of these lands and of the teaching and learning that comes from and responds to the needs of the land and people who share it. May our daily lives and work, research, teaching, and community engagement support the evolving vision of the Muwekmi Ohlone for their community and these lands. Superintendent Monson, will you please lead the flag salute? Thank you, Superintendent Monso. If you can please report on your superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Hernandez. Welcome, everyone. As mentioned earlier, February is our Black History Month. And as you're aware, February is a special time where we have an opportunity to highlight the many accomplishments and contributions of our African Americans to our country and also our greater society. Our schools have been learning and have learning opportunities and activities highlighting this special month. These activities and special events have also been shared throughout our social media platform. So encourage folks to take a look at some of the great activities and learnings that are happening in our schools. Also report that on Friday, February 3rd, was our longtime community liaison, Amelia Hill, that was her last day of work. She decided to retire after 21 years, 20 plus 1 years of hard work, service, and dedication to the Oak Grove community. Amelia Hill was a district community liaison who worked closely with our community members, our teachers, administrators to support all of our families in the district. She brought Kwanzaa assemblies and presentations to a large number of our schools and is one of the originators of the Dream Keepers Awards, Coffee Klatch Parents Group, and Coffee Klatch Kids Club. One of her favorite passions is giving books away to the students to help them improve their reading skills and academic success. In the community, generations of families know her from her many years of service and support. Her list of accomplishments and contributions are just simply too long to list. We want to wish her the very best as she begins this new, excuse me, this new stage of her life. We had an opportunity to celebrate her here in boardroom on her last day of school with many of her colleagues. Some of the colleagues are here today and wishing her well as she transitions into this new part of her life. We had also an opportunity as an executive team to visit a number of our schools. We visited Burnell Christopher Herman, Adventure Ledesma Baldwin during this month. We had an opportunity to be joined by Ms. Tanya Jaco, Dr. Tanya Jaco, who regretfully, you notice she is not here today. She had a family death and she's attending to her family during this time. So regretfully is not able to be here tonight. But she was able to join me and exec team at one of our visits, actually at Burnell. And so I know she's looking forward to future visits to our schools. We also recently had our district advisory committee on February 9th. I want to thank our assistant superintendents and specifically our assistant superintendent Bowles, who had an opportunity to share with our parent group the dashboard and also the activity summer programs that will be moving forward and programming for this summer. If you recall, some of that information was shared with the board. And we continue to provide updates to our parent groups, this time DAC, but we'll also share that information with our Coffee Clutch, our ABLA parents as well. Earlier today, I had the pleasure of meeting with a very special group. It's my all-time favorite group to meet with. I love our board meetings, but I love meeting with our Student Advisory Council, which are our student representatives from each of our elementary schools, sixth graders typically, and then our middle school eighth graders that are the leaders of their school. So once a month, I have the great opportunity to share some time with them. And today, the topic that we discussed was Chat GPT, and just had that conversation around, do you know what that is? And you know what? They do know what it is. And so Chat GPT is a artificial intelligence and AI platform that you can utilize to do a lot of interesting things, like can you please write a summary of the Ming Dynasty and write it in a way that reflects fourth grade vocabulary, and throw in some misspellings in there that are typical for fourth grade. And I'd like to have that be a 2-page paper. And so, it's having a conversation around, okay, this tool is out there. How do we make sure that if it's out there, that you use it appropriately? Because it's important that we continue to build our skills as learners, in our system, to be critical thinkers, to engage in content, to be involved in inquiry, and not just have something created for you. And so it was a great conversation. I want to thank Steve Harmon and Bruce Neff, who joined us as part of that discussion, that conversation. And, it was an interesting fact, and I can't recall the exact numbers, but I'm sure everybody has heard of is it TikTok? TikTok? Well, TikTok, it took 11 months to reach 1 billion followers, or utilize it, somebody utilizing that platform 1 billion times. It took ChatGPT 1 month to get to that billion level. And so if we haven't seen it in our system now, we're probably going to see it. So it's going to be, I think, part of a more comprehensive learning that we're going to have to be engaged in, how we support utilizing a tool that's out there in a way that is productive, in a way that helps promote continuous learning for our students, as opposed to finding an easy way to get something done. So, our ed tech team, always at the forefront of some of these things, actually had at our last PIN night, parent information night, had that as one of the topics of discussion for our parents. So they are aware of that platform that's out there as well. So it was a great conversation. Again, not that I don't love these meetings, but that was a really interesting. I love having an opportunity to meet with our students. And as we are aware, we're coming up to President's Week. So I want to make sure to wish everybody wonderful holidays, time to rest, and spend time with family and loved ones, and come back refreshed to hit the next stretch before our, I guess it's spring break. And then it's around the corner is the end of the school year. So it's incredible at this point how fast things go. And so with that concludes my report.
Thank you, Superintendent Monso. Our next item is the closed session report. And so the board met in closed session to discuss public employee performance evaluation of the superintendent, and no action was taken. Public Employee Discipline and Release Dismissal, Government Code Section 54957, and the board took action to adopt resolution number 1427-02/03, /23, resolution of non-reelection of probationary certificated employee number 306819. And that was with 4 ayes and 1 absence. The third item is 2 student discipline cases. And so the board met in closed session, and based on the completion and documentation of completion of all rehabilitation requirements, the Board of Trustees reinstates the student 21/22-01 with a total of 4 ayes and 1 absent. The second case, the Board of Trustees expels pupil 22/23-02 through February 16th, 2024, based upon successful completion and documentation of completion of all rehabilitation requirements. Pupil 22/23-02 may petition the Oak Grove School District or subsequent school district for reinstatement at a comprehensive public school. And that was also with 4 ayes and 1 absent. That concludes our closed session report. We will now move to public comment, item 4.1. This is an opportunity for individuals to address the board on any school-related issue, which is not part of this evening's agenda. I see Jorge Prado.
Good evening, Madam President. Thank you. I think I should be respectful. Thank you, Cecily. Good to see you. But they were first, and if it's possible, I want to them first and then myself, if that's okay.
That's fine with me.
Are you sure? Yeah. Apologize for that. I know 3 minutes. I already used half an hour. Madam President, thank you. New board members, nice to meet you. Jorge Prado, District Community Liaison. Mr. Malcolm X, some years ago, said, "Without education, you're not going anywhere in this world." I think we all have to agree with that one because we're here, educators, and trying to educate people. But the comment comes on behalf of a great person for 20 plus years was part of this district, Miss Amelia Hill. Not just a great community liaison, not just a great person, not great human being. All the achievements are there. Mr. Manso mentioned some of them, but she was on Robbie Bridges, if I can mention that, and make the extrapolation. If you hear her story, you will see that we were so blessed to have someone that have grown during all those civil rights movements. She didn't walk Selma because her mom didn't allow her to go. She was too young. But she was allowed to run and go there. And that's what she did. She took this Malcolm X thought and make it hers and transmit it to every single one of our students, regardless their gender, their identification, their ethnicity. She always push that without education, you're not going anywhere. And she educated me, not in a way as we try to do with our students, but in a way to understand a culture, to understand people, to understand more and more and more what does exactly mean to being a person of color. Some of us can disguise ourselves. Some of us can navigate it until we open our mouths like myself and, oh, you have an accent. And then I don't know what kind of accent, nobody can tell me, but I've been all over the place. Yeah, and one of these days I will figure out that part. But she made that hers. And we're looking for someone that covers that. But it's not a position that I'm come to talk about to somebody take care of it. That is another comment. What I want to stress is to take that spirit of hers that should be here somewhere in golden letters, because she did that. She pushed every single one of the families, generations of Mr. Manso mentioned, generations of families to make that seed plant in their brains and growth. And when you see all these families responding to her immediately, responding to her on her education and her favorite thing, darling, you need to come to school. I wish I can say darling, as she says. I'm going to copy that forever, I hope, but never going to be like hers, because I'm still learning how to push that process of thinking in our families, and not just in our families, in every single educator in this district, because we are educators and we need to make this ours. That's why I bring Mr. Malcolm X, not just because it's the Black History Month. It's because some people really take that inside and try to put it out. 2 more seconds, thank you. Without education, we are nothing. Please educate yourselves as well, because we need to be educated in order that we can educate others. Thank you so much for your time, Madam President. Sorry for the time.
Thank you, Senor Prado. Maribel?
Good evening, board. My name is Maribel Fong. I'm a teacher at Christopher Elementary. As an experienced teacher of over 20 years, I am seeing students with greater socio-emotional needs now more than ever. My colleagues and I are finding that students struggle to communicate these needs and self-regulate. This in turn affects their ability to learn and also impacts the learning of others. Students' socio-emotional needs exceed what teachers are currently able to provide, while still providing our classes with the quality instruction they deserve. Many students who have special needs are unidentified and do not have the emotional support needed to access instructional content. And students' needs are more prevalent now than we have ever experienced before. We urgently need quality gen ed teacher trainings to support our highest needs population. Without trainings to address the vast socio-emotional needs students are facing, we cannot be expected to identify or address their behavioral needs. Effective research-based strategies and techniques are necessary to meet the needs of our neurodiverse students. There is a significant body of research done on the brain, how we learn, and its implications for education. There is a conference happening this weekend in San Francisco on this very topic. It brings together neuroscience, psychology, and educational research to educators, clinicians, counselors, speech language pathologists, and special educational professionals to improve their practice. Teachers would greatly benefit from this type of training, which would help us in our work to better support the needs of all of our students. However, conference fees make this cost prohibitive on a teacher salary. I'm asking the board to provide funding for critical training such as this Teaching Behaved Brains conference. We are all in this for our students. We as teachers have the dedication and the will to help our neurodiverse population. We need more tools and more support to better serve our students. As a gen ed teacher and a parent of a special needs child, I urge you to consider providing training for all our teachers. Our students are depending on us. Together, we can improve our practice and make a greater impact on the lives of the students we serve. Thank you.
Thank you. Eva?
Can I ask you to go first?
Okay. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. So Corin?
Good evening, board. My name is Corin James. I'm a teacher at Christopher School. We, the teachers at Christopher School, are speaking in support of Courtney Hunter Cavedo, our RSP teacher, and hopes to make you aware of her current working conditions. We all know that there are ongoing challenges with special ed, not only in our district, but in our county. However, Courtney's case is pretty unique and she needs more support. Most elementary schools in our district are K through 6. Christopher School is a TK through 8 dual immersion and STEM school. So in addition to K6, Courtney provides services for TK, 7th and 8th grade. She currently has 28 students affirmed and attested in SACE, but her caseload is beyond that number because she has begun giving services to students with signed IEPs. From August to January, she has held 48 IEP meetings with 10 more scheduled for the month of February and 20 IEPs scheduled for the remainder of the year. IEP meetings tend to go past her contractual hours because we only have our speech therapists and psychologists 1.5 to 2 days per week. Scheduling the IEPs is a logistical nightmare. In addition, this does not take into account the 13 assessment plans that are pending. She's working beyond contract hours from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. daily and weekends as well. As an RSP teacher, she attends one district meeting per month for SPED, meets once a week with support staff at our school to discuss students and IEP paperwork, and attends to daily teaching duties. The paperwork and assessments are incredibly time consuming. For example, an annual IEP takes her 2 to 3 hours to complete with communication. Triennial and initial IEPs take 9 to 10 hours, which includes assessments, reports, IEP completion, and communication with parents and the team. And although she is allotted 3 hours of assessment time per week, she has lost 14 plus hours due to early dismissal days, required meetings, and addressing ongoing student behaviors because lack of support in that area as well. And Eva will continue with part 2.
Thank you, board, for your time. We are aware that other RSP teachers may have similar caseloads. However, what makes Courtney's situation different is the fact that she services a wider grade span. Grouping students with this wide of a span makes scheduling difficult, leaving little time for her to meet the needs of all of her students, as well as her job obligations and her own personal needs. We know that students with the greatest needs require additional support. The RSP teacher and aide are unable to do this work alone. Courtney is the biggest cornerstone at our school and is going above and beyond to support students and teachers. With all of this being said, her students have such extensive behavioral and emotional needs, which require other support staff, such as the principal, instructional coaches, student teachers, secretary, health clerk, community liaison, and yard duties to assist pretty much on a daily basis. This is not feasible for one person and one instructional aide. As a certificated staff member and part of our union, she completes all duties just like general education teachers, in addition to the special education duties that her job requires. As stated before, this continually pushes her way past contractual hours of 7.25 per day on a daily basis. As amazing as Courtney is, her situation is unacceptable and unsustainable. Please consider looking into additional support for Courtney as the schedule violates her contractual work hours and prevents her from having a work-life balance. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for sharing. That seems to conclude the in-person comments. Are there any virtual comments at this time?
Berna Gonzalez.
Go ahead, Berna. You have 3 minutes.
Hello. My name is Bernadette Gonzalez. My daughter is Melania Valdivia. She goes to Anderson Elementary. You know, this year we've had some incidents with the principal there about the way she talks to these kids, you know, emotionally. I feel like she doesn't know what she's doing to these kids. Just yesterday, she walked into the classroom, in a classroom of 6th graders. I wasn't there. I could only go by what my daughter has told me and other classmates, and told the kids that I guess she had heard about a fight that happened in the prior week. And she told the kids, I'm tired of your guys' behavior. If this does not change, I will call the cops on you guys. And you guys, none of you guys are too young to be going to jail. And next time there's a fight and you don't report it, you guys will be accessory to the crime. You know, I think this is highly inappropriate. 1, my daughter does not have anything to do with that. 2, my daughter was scared today to even go to school. She was too nervous. She had anxiety today, so I kept her home. She didn't want to go. Not because she is a bad kid, but because she feels on edge, and a child is not gonna, she's too tense right now and she's not gonna be open to learning. A child should not be put in a situation where they should feel protected by this person, or, to the point where she can't feel like she can't openly learn because she's too worried about what's going to happen with the principal next. This is inappropriate, and I know there's a lot of kids that were scared by this. This isn't the first incident. The last incident with her was when she pulled my daughter's arm and slammed my door shut. There needs to be some sort of repercussions for this, because my daughter is scared to go to school because of this lady. And that's not okay. I've never had a problem with this lady ever before until these two incidents. And it makes me nervous that these are the people that we have watching our kids at the school. This is not okay. And I'm not going to tolerate this. It's getting to the point where I want to pull my child out of the school to put her on independent studies and homeschool. And as you can imagine, I am fed up with it and I am worried about this, and I have to protect my child and be an advocate for my child. And how am I going to send my child into that environment every day? It's not okay. Thank you for your time, and hopefully we could resolve this.
Thank you, Berna. Are there any other virtual comments?
There are no other comments.
Seeing no other comments, that does conclude our item 4.1 public comment, bringing us to item 4.2 bargaining unit comment. CSEA, please.
Good evening. Thank you. Hope everybody's doing good. I want to start, as always, I want to give a big thank you to HR for working really rapidly. A lot of vacancies have happened this past month with classified employees. They posted up the job positions at a fast pace. They did their interviews and the positions got filled. So I wanted to say thank you for that, and also give a shout out to the SPED department, because tomorrow, as everyone's aware, it is Professional Development Day. And they are providing the second training for the instructional assistants for special ed departments, for the IAs. And I feel that that's appreciated by them, and it is also needed for them to benefit the students as well. And on that, ahora lo voy a decir en español, porque si tengo miembros del sindicato que solo hablan español. Quiero empezar para dar las gracias a los recursos humanos por publicar los puestos del trabajo que están ahora vacíos, entrevistar y llenar los puestos rápido, así no se quedaban vacíos y tenemos miembros de nuestro sindicato ya en sus posiciones. Entonces, gracias. Y también le quería dar gracias al Departamento de Educación Especial. Mañana es un día de desarrollo profesional en el distrito y tienen entrenamiento para los asistentes educativos del departamento. Entonces, gracias y buenas noches.
Thank you. President Berlin, Oak Grove Educators Association.
Good evening, school board members and executive team, colleagues, and community members. So I've got a short report today. I wanted to share again about community schools. We have been doing, we've been sharing and talking to our members about community schools. We just had a virtual presentation with them, and I'll be sharing with you the latest article about community schools. It is happening throughout our state. It's happening throughout the country. We have the opportunity to have access to resources. This is coming from the state's landmark $4.1 billion investment. Oak Grove has the opportunity to apply for a planning grant and also an implementation grant. Community schools is a model that can really transform how we conduct public education in Oak Grove. Many school districts have already partaken of these grants, and it's a model that not only includes board members and the executive team, but it also includes parents, other community members, students, educators as part of the steering that happens in our school district. So not just school board members. I'm sure there's going to be some things that you do and decide as for us as the leaders of our school district, but the community schools model broadens that shared decision-making space where it's not just input, it's actually helping to steer where we go as a school district. So it's also a shared partnership. That's something that I have spoken with Superintendent Monzo about, that it is supposed to be a collaborative movement from the beginning, from the time that we have the discussions, from the time that we apply for those grants, to the time that we are planning and assessing our communities to see what each of our communities needs. What our students need, what our families need. For one example would be, let's say we have a school where we have families that are in need of some kind of dental care. If that is a need that our students and families need, then we would come together as a steering group to figure out how do we access those and partner with communities, with other community members to make that happen and help them access dental work or dental checkups, or even, just the necessary things that that you need to have a healthy mouth. And so it's going to look different in every school district. And for us to qualify, we would have to have 50 to 80% of unduplicated students. So as a school district, we may not qualify in that respect, but there's also a possibility that we could do it for just a portion or a number of some of our schools, where some of our schools do not qualify. And that could be a way to bring that model to Oak Grove, and then we can replicate that with other schools that may have different needs than what other schools may need. So I would like to continue having that thought process and conversation about that. Our next action is to actually have another presentation, but at a school site. So we will be choosing a school site, and I'll be talking with site representatives from those schools, and it will be more than likely in the Davis Learning Community. When that happens, we would like to extend an invitation to you to also listen and learn more about it. I'm happy to also sit down with you to have that conversation. We have started to send invites to have just coffee dates with our school board, with school board members. And so I'd be happy to kind of look into that and figure out a way when we can meet and touch base. So special ed, for OGA, we've been meeting with our special ed, we've been meeting with our different groups in OGA. We represent teachers, counselors, psychologists, nurses, and speech language pathologists. So the largest group we represent are teachers, and we hear a lot from our teachers, but we also wanted to meet up with our other groups. So we have been meeting with our psychologists and our speech and language pathologists. And our next group that we'll be meeting with is our SPED group, which is our SDC, RSP, resource, and SAI, and APE. There's a lot of alphabet soup in there, but basically it's our educators that are serving our students with special needs. And the purpose of these get-togethers is to, one, learn more about the work that they have been doing and that they are doing in Oak Grove, but also what are some things in our systems, in our structures, processes that we can improve? Or if systems are not working, then what's one way that we could dismantle that and try to create something that's better and that addresses the needs of our students here and now and moving forward? Because we have done a lot of things the same way for a very long time. And I think it's time to reevaluate those systems and see if we can really improve or figure out, you know what, that doesn't work anymore. Let's create something new and better. So, and I wanted to also address safety. I'm not sure how much access you have to safety reports. I attend one. I think we have a few safety groups now. I attend one of the safety groups with another OGA member, and it's really interesting to hear about the different things across the district. The safety topics range from what to do in an emergency, what to do, what's the process for when we have a blackout during the school day, when it's pouring rain and your classroom doesn't have windows, to safety in the classroom. And we will also get reports. It's confidential and there's no names attached to the report, but I do look for specific things such as injuries that have been sustained by staff members, either certificated or classified staff. And if you drill down even further, what schools did those occur at? And is there a trend in any of those schools that is occurring? And if you drill even further than that, are there any special education classes? And is that where that injury occurred? There are also things, so I think I want to make you aware of that. There is a trend in some schools where staff is getting injured and they have reported it, or else it wouldn't be on that safety report. So when a staff member is injured, they call the nurse. They should be calling the nurse number that is located somewhere in a bulletin board in the staff room or the office. It goes straight to a nurse, an actual nurse. And then there's some questions that they get asked. And then if needed, they get assessed at Concentra, a clinic. I think it would be helpful to really look into that and do some more digging, because the implications of that, of our staff getting hurt, and I think we should also look at the number of injuries that are happening every month and what happened last year and this year, just even from what Member Maribel was talking about with the increase in those kinds of things that our students are experiencing. The injuries that are happening could be a result of those feelings and traumas being manifested, but they cannot explain themselves. So as staff, for instructional assistants, for teachers and other staff that are on our work sites, we have the right, you have the right to be able to go into your workspace without having any anxiety, thinking that you might be bitten that day or hit in the head or punched. Those things that I mentioned have already happened. They happened to our Oak Grove family by students. We have encouraged our members to please, and not just our members, all school staff to please report that so that it is documented and memorialized on the safety report, because we need to be able to track and see what are those trends. It's something that we have to take action with. as a school district, we have to really figure out what is missing in this scenario. What do the kids need so that there is some kind of soothing or relief where they are not doing that? Or what kind of support can we give to our staff? I think the training is going to be helpful. That's something that we had really advocated for our instructional assistants. But also, from what Maribel was talking about, there's that training too for other staff, for all staff. For those of you, except for the educators on the school board, it's been a long time since you've walked into a classroom and actually maybe had that fear of, or anxiety or stress about like, am I gonna get hit in the head? Am I gonna get bitten? Or is somebody gonna somehow, punch me? But that is a real thing for our teachers. There was a teacher last year who had to take leave because they kept, and this was in a gen ed class, this was a place where they continued to get injured. And it made it a very difficult time for the students, the other students, because those other students also have rights to an education. And what about their rights? And the student who is doing that, they have a right too. How are we making sure that we are helping them thrive? And there are a lot of legalities in special ed, in education. And I understand that, but how are we rising up to meet that challenge? How are we rising up to figure that out in a real way instead of relying on what we have done in the past? So the very last thing that I wanted to share with you is an invitation. I shared that when I arrived. It is an invitation to our legislative brunch. This is happening on April 1st. It's not an April Fool's joke. It's actually happening. It's at the Hayes Mansion. We invite many legislators from our area, and it's from 8:30 to 11. This is an opportunity for us, not just in this room or in the virtual space, to come together for our shared goals for public education and for our school district. And I have shared this in the associate president's meeting about funding, not just our school district, but the way that we are funded. The legislators are the folks who can make these and bring these up in Sacramento. We are one of about 7 states that still fund education through ADA. So this would be an opportunity to share our stories and share the needs that we have collectively, not just for Oak Grove, but it's for our students. It's also a time where you can get up on a Saturday and go to the Hayes Mansion and meet in a different space. So please consider attending. Let me know. I will RSVP and we will take care of the attendance fee. Thank you. This concludes my report.
Thank you, President Berlin. So we did receive, So we did receive an emailed report from Vice President Robles of AFSCME. So at this time, Member Pacheco is actually going to recite and share out that email for Vice President Robles's report. Thank you.
Thanks. Dear board members, I want to thank you on behalf of AFSCME union members. Through your work of making OGSD a place of equality, inclusion, and belonging, you have created a safe space for people such as myself to feel confident to stand up and advocate for our needs. The pathways you have created through board resolutions, implementation of committees, and encouraging staff to revisit how things are done at Oak Grove have been instrumental and highly appreciated in creating positive change for not only our students, but our unit members. Some of you may recall during our December board meeting that I mentioned ASME and district administration have agreed to form a committee to create a change in the process of how employees apply and test for promotional vacancies. In the past, many of our ESL unit members have not been able to interview for promotional opportunities due to not being able to pass the English written exam portion of the process. Since we last met, we have worked with the district to eliminate testing for current staff who have the experience needed to meet the minimum qualifications of positions that would be considered promotional positions. Prior to this, many of our current qualified staff have left to go to other districts and have not been able to promote due to not being able to pass the English written tests, even though they have filled into lead positions when there was a need. I am proud to report that since our committee with district administration began, we've been able to retain and promote quality employees by getting them to the interview process and having them advocate for themselves to prove that they are qualified for lead positions. 2 custodians have been with the district for 8 and 10 years, were recently promoted to lead positions, whereas they were not able to pass written exams before our committee began, while another 2 custodians who have previously failed the exam but have served as qualified custodians as well, were also promoted to lead positions in the district. One member with tears of joy in their eyes thanked us for our work to make it finally equitable and possible for this member to fill a position this member has been qualified for years. I want to tell you that because without all your hard work and being willing to set new paths in the district, none of this would have been possible. So on behalf of our members and of human beings with the desire to just be given an equal opportunity, thank you for all that you've done. Have a great evening. And if you have any follow-up questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to contact me via email or cell phone, Frankie.
Thank you for sharing that, Member Pacheco, and thank you for reaching out to us and sharing all those testimonies, Vice President Robles. I am so proud of all the collective hard work to honor again that value of equity that we share as a district, as a board. And so it's great that we're able to retain some of our amazing employees. At this time, we can now move to item 5.0 consent agenda. Superintendent Monzo, if you can please present.
Yes, I'd like to recommend the board approve the consent agenda items as presented. And I believe we have one public comment.
Jorge Prado.
Thank you. Madam President, everyone. Thank you so much again. This one will be pretty fast. I was planning to talk about 5.14. The thing is, first of all, thanks so much to the board and the willingness of the executive team in approving our contracts for the next 3 years. I know it's kind of hard. We still are looking forward to try to match up the life in the Silicon Valley, regardless that the dot-coms might be living. We are not living because we're here, and we're here to serve our children and the staff and the teachers. So I know it's going to be 3 years in order that we can have this conversation again. I don't know if I'm going to be here. Who knows? Life is a surprise all the time. But if I'm here again, I'm going to keep stressing that you consider that the life in this particular part of the world is not fun. It's amazingly fun, but it's so expensive to have fun around here. And I want to finish this or ending this with this beautiful quote from Horace, poet in the Roman world, one of the best ones. He said, adversity has the effect of electing talents within prosperous circumstances will have lain dormant. And I want to take this in the sense of you guys are quite talented. And we are talented, and you have a lot of talent here, as you hear about Corny and all the RSPs and the psychologists and every single one of us. And not because we are in a prosperous time right now, because one measure passed, that means that all problems are solved. Please, we are still in adversity times. Consider that when you take decisions to move from one point to another. And I'm stretching it too long, So thanks so much, Madam President. Good to see you again. Happy New Year all. Have a great meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Prado. Are there any virtual comments on item 5.0?
No public comments.
Okay, trustees, any comments on our consent agenda? Okay, I'll open the floor for a motion, please.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I second that motion.
Okay, roll call, please.
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
Vice President Gonzalez,
Aye.
President Hernandez,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. I'd also like to highlight that we did receive a donation from Gary Francis, who was actually the former principal of Davis Intermediate School to Davis Intermediate School. So thank you, Mr. Francis, Gary, for your contribution. That concludes item 5.0 consent agenda and brings us to our first action item of the night. Item 6.1 CSBA 2023 Delegate Assembly Ballot. And so we have this item on our agenda tonight due to the lack of clarity in the process. A number of interested board members were not able to be reflected on the voting ballot for CSBA, which is the California School Boards Association Delegate Assembly. And so there is an option to write in additional interested candidates for Delegate Assembly, which has been requested by board member George Sanchez from Franklin McKinley School District, board member Catherine Vonnegut from Mountain View Los Altos High School District, as well as our board member Jorge Pacheco Jr. And so at this time, I can go ahead and open up and see if there are any public comments, unless would you like to say something before we move to public comments? Okay, public comments at this time, any in person? Okay, any virtual comments?
None.
Okay, and so I'll open up the floor now for questions or comments from trustees.
I just want to say thank you to my colleagues for considering my candidacy to join the Delegate Assembly for CSBA. Even though we know that policy is not the end all be all for creating change for students, it's certainly a helpful tool, especially as we need to figure out a very much rapidly changing landscape, given the development of AI, the growing gaps for reading and math due to the COVID pandemic, and a bunch of other problems that trustees need to confront that CSBA is at the front lines of. So hopefully, if I join the DA, the Delegate Assembly, I'll be able to highlight some of our own experiences here at the local level, and also tell them what it's like, what policies we need from a teacher's perspective, a student perspective of this district, and a trustee's perspective. So with that, I just want to say thank you for considering me, and I'm happy to put my name forward as a writing candidate.
Thank you, Member Pacheco, for your comments. So at this time, we can go ahead and discuss. There are a number of 6 seats. So we will vote for no more than 6 candidates.
I'd like to suggest 2 people that I see on this list immediately. The first would be Bridget Watson from Sunnyvale School District. She's a fantastic local leader. She's the president of the Santa Clara County School Boards Association. She community organizes trustees across the county, and I know her personally. She has a really big heart, and she's a really great public leader. I hope that we can add her to our 6, and of course also let's see. Vaishali Surke from Los Altos School District. She serves as a member of the Juvenile Justice Commission for the county. So she's helping students not only as a trustee for the Los Altos School District and elementary school district, but also helping our juvenile justice system really apply a strong lens of equity and leadership that I think has been very helpful for that body. So she's a fantastic person that I also really want to advocate for.
I would agree with those two candidates as well as Member Pacheco Jr. And George Sanchez. I would feel appropriate as the four. And then out of six. So again, we can open it up to discussion. We could also leave it as is with 3, 4.
I'm fine with those recommendations.
I would just like to recommend consideration Van Lay on the east side. Union High School. I know her very well. She's always active in the community, and I would like to see a diverse pool of people here. I would recommend Van Lay.
Okay.
And I would like to recommend one more person, Chris Norwood from Milpitas Unified School District. He does so much work as a member of the Legislative Advocacy Committee for SAC SBA, and he's just a really fantastic person all around. So I'd like to see him join the Delegate Assembly too, get our vote.
Okay, noted.
So as a summary, if I could, I think we captured
We have our 6.
Bridget Watson, Jorge Pacheco Jr., Vaishali Surkey, George Sanchez, Van Lee, Chris Norwood. Those are the candidates that were recommended. Is that correct?
That's right.
So that is 6. Would you like to, somebody like to make that as a motion?
I move that we approve the 6 stated, should I say their names?
Do you have them?
Yeah,
okay.
Member Gonzalez, or Vice President Gonzalez. is stating that.
I move that the Oak Grove School District Board of Education votes for Van Lee, Christopher Norwood, Vaishali Surkey, Bridget Watson, Jorge Pacheco Jr., and George Sanchez to the 2023 Delegate Assembly for Region 20.
I second. Seeing that we have a first and second, may I please have a roll call vote?
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
Vice President Gonzalez,
Aye.
President Hernandez,
Aye.
motion carries.
Thank you. That concludes item 6.1. And so now I'll pass it over to Superintendent Monzo and then Mr. Evans, our Associate Superintendent, to discuss the next couple resolutions. Thank you.
Thank you, President Hernandez. So we have a number, we're excited to bring a number of items as action items for the board that relate to continuing the work of improving our learning environments and our schools in a number of areas and related to safety and also related to opportunities to create spaces that are safer for students in our community as well. So as part of this item, I'd like to request consideration from the board president to go through 6.2 through 6.6 with an explanation of each of those items and an opportunity for any clarification or questions for each of those items. And at the conclusion of that, have a motion for the approval of those items as one motion. So if the board president, the board would consider that, that would be appreciated. Certainly, we want to take as much time to answer any questions as needed, and then at the conclusion, complete that with a vote. So with that, I'll turn it over to our Associate Superintendent, Mr. Evans, to introduce the first item, number 6.2.
All right, good evening, trustees. I wanted to introduce 6.2, which is the approval of the leaseback lump sum agreement for Bernal Intermediate School. Last summer, we did some work there on seismic upgrading, but the main objective was HVAC, fire alarm, painting, and work on the roof. So This lump sum is for that major work that'll be taking place over summer of 2023 and then finishing up in summer of 2024. It entails going into the first floor and reworking this summer on all of the lighting, the sprinklers, emergency systems there, and HVAC. And then next summer, working on the second floor infrastructure up there. So that's the first item, 6.2, for that upgrade at Bernal Intermediate School. Are there any questions I can answer related to that? Okay. Item 6.3 is a variety of improvements related to the expanded learning program. The expanded learning opportunities program will provide facilities after school, program after school for students. And we want to use some of those resources this year to make upgrades to some of the portables around our district, repair them, bring them up to standards. In this case, we'll be working on some roofing, particularly at Edenvale and Stipe. There are some portable restrooms on the campuses. We want to upgrade those and bring those up to standard, and a sewer ejector pump also at Edenvale to keep those things functioning properly. So are there any questions I can respond to regarding the improvements related to the expanded learning opportunity?
That one's also set for the summer.
Yeah, we'll probably get started on as soon as possible. We have the bid. Yes. Item 6.3 are fencing modifications at Oak Ridge Elementary School. The current use of the eating area out in front of the school is not within the perimeter of the site. So we'll be modifying the fencing on the front side of the school where the large lawn area is at the intersection. So we wanted to expand that fencing down the walkway and around to the marquee and then back towards the playground on Calero, so that the students will be able to pick up their lunch, go out and eat in that area and be within the enclosed perimeter of the campus. And there will also be a little bit of improvement over on the side of the office as well, so that you can access from the playground over that way, and it's enclosed as well. Any questions on the fencing modifications for Oak Ridge?
Can we just get a timeline with each of these as well? Like,
Yeah,
if there's none, then that's fine.
Yeah, this bid is in, so they're going to start working on it as soon as they can. There will probably be lead time to get the steel and all working on it, but I don't know if it'll be done before summer.
My only ask is if we can get a copy of the map or visual.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually did a highlighted one, so I'll make a color copy of that because the drawings are hard to decipher if they're not on big sheets. So I'll get that to you guys.
Perfect. Thank you.
Item 6.5 is the procurement of security cameras for around the district. This is an item that's been in discussion and presented to various committees for safety and security. This agreement is for the purchase of the cameras, the mounting hardware, and the licensing software. The actual installation will come later. We're getting bids on that. And this is work that probably won't get started until summer and go through the end of this year, or maybe depending on supply chain, might even go a little bit further. But we have to get the bid on the installation and then get all of the supplies and materials in. But we wanted to get this to you as soon as possible because by doing it sooner, we avoided an increase in costs for the cameras. Okay. This cameras will be located around access points. They'll be exterior facing, and they'll be more numerous, obviously, at the intermediate schools where there are larger campuses and more. And then we also will be doing some in our back maintenance yard here where we've had a lot of vandalism and theft as well.
Middle schools, but also elementary schools too?
Yes, elementaries and yes,
All of them?
all of them. Yes. Great. And then item 6.6 is a replacement of some playground structures. These are 3 structures, one at Christopher, one at Del Roble, and one at Sakamoto. They're just structures that are reaching end of life. We've had injuries there. We've also had just some damage, and we're at the point where repairing them, we're going to just see more of the same types of problems. So we're going to replace the playground equipment. This contract is for the replacement of the equipment and the installation. We'll be bringing back another contract that has to do with the court in place, the rubberized surface that will go in and all as well. So, and this lead time, we'll probably bring it in if probably mostly in the summer. I don't think we'll see much done before the school year's out. depending on, again, these tend to have a 6 to 12 week lead time.
Excuse me. So for, I see here that we're contracting with Miracle Play Systems. Are they a different contractor than what we had originally with the playground?
I don't know who the vendor was who provided the
Mhm.
playgrounds that are there currently.
Okay.
But Miracle Play is one of, there are several different vendors in the state that put together these play systems. I'd have to check with maintenance to see who did the originals.
I don't know if we even have they're
Yeah.
probably so antique that I'm not sure we have those.
Okay.
I see some head nods back there. And it is our goal, even though we're starting here, we have a number of structures that as we've touched some of our schools, as an example, at Santa Teresa Intermediate School, the playground structure there as part of the modernization does have the rubberized surface. One of the playground structures, I believe it's the kinder tot lot at Sakamoto, has the rubberized play structure. Ledesma also has the rubberized ground underneath the play structure. And so our goal is to make these improvements for all of our schools. It also helps with just the maintenance and upkeep of that area. If you've been out to our schools, we have that infill, that bark that just goes everywhere. And so, the custodians can blow it and the next day it's all over the place again as well. And so it also will help with just some of the ongoing upkeep and cost of bringing in large yards of infill for all of our play structures across the district. And so our goal is to continue to move forward as we move through some of our sites and create the same type of standard for all of our schools. So we have somewhat a consistent experience for our students in our community for this nice amenity.
Any questions, trustees?
I have a question about process. So I see 6.4 and 6.5 are coming from Measure P funds, right?
6.4 is that the cameras are coming from Measure P funds. The rest we're trying to use Measure S funds predominantly. 6.6 or 0.6, yeah, the playground, the cameras are Measure P, and the playground, I believe, is Measure S, or it might just say bond funds.
Both Measure S and Measure P have these as acceptable expenditures for these projects. I think the other expenditure that we wanted to leverage was as was mentioned, the ELOP funds. And so because there were funds that were flexible to be able to improve spaces where we're going to be housing students in the after-school programming, that we utilize those funds because those are going to be running out or expiring soon. So because that was an expenditure that matched the criteria for that fund, those funds were used for those improvements. The Measure S and Measure P funds, they're fairly interchangeable in terms of approved items, but because the Measure S funds have been on our books, we have a 3-year window to expend those. And so it was also a priority to make sure that we expend those Measure S funds within that 3-year window. So you have 3 years from the time that you issue bonds and those funds come to the district to also expend them. So for example, these last round of bonds that we just sold, the 67 million, which we received the funds, I believe, February.
They are in our
8th.
accounts. Yeah, it closed on the 8th.
On the 8th. So we have 3 years from that date to expend those dollars. And so that's why you see some of those funds from Measure S, make sure that we close those out within that time frame of the 3 years, and then some of the remaining from the measure.
And where does the Citizen Oversight Committee for the bonds fit in with all of this? I know they oversee and make sure that like this is clearly within the parameters of what it's supposed to be used. Does the committee exist already? And if so, is their purview both Measure S and Measure P?
Correct. The approach that we've taken, because it is difficult to man or to what's the right word, to seat members from the various areas for that committee. So we've taken the approach that that committee serve as oversight committee members for Measure S and Measure P. And so what they would do is, because it's a committee that ensures that the projects and the expenditures are consistent with the bond language. So it's not an approving body, it's an overview body, like an audit. Right? So they would review after the completion of the project and the expenditures. They would look at the expenditures and what those funds were used for, and then look at Measure S language and Measure P language to say, are these expenditures consistent with what the voters approved for these funds to be utilized? And so as part of that, then, as you know, they'll come and provide updates to the board of their audit and report whether the funds at that time were consistent with expenditures. And also the independent auditors that you just heard, I believe in November,
Yes.
that came, they also audit the bond measure, and then they review whether those expenditures are also consistent with bond language as well. So there's kind of a dual system of ensuring that we're utilizing the funds appropriately, both from the Citizens Oversight Committee and then also from the auditors. Any other questions?
All right, seeing none, I'll go ahead then and ask if there are any public comments for these various items. Are there any virtual public comments for any of the items of 6.2 through 6.6?
No virtual comments.
Okay. Seeing no public comments, I believe we've covered questions and comments from trustees. Go ahead, Member Martinez.
All right, thank you so much for these new things for adding to the school. This is for my clarification, but my understanding. So the cameras, were they going to capture maybe around the school or just?
Yeah, they'll be focused on access points to the campus, whether they're, gates for vehicles, but predominantly the access points, the gates to enter into the campus near the office, so that we'll be able to view yes. We don't tend to publish where they're located exactly, but we do kind of put it in a general statement.
So we do have some campuses, as an example, let's say at Parkview, and in a number of schools where there's main access points, but there might be also an access point through a back area through a park. And that's common. I mean, Christopher has that. Parkview has that. A number of schools have those type of circumstances. So the entry points might not always just be the main entrance to the campus. It might be either site gates or other areas, entry points where there's access into the campus. So, so these cameras would be stationed in those type of settings.
And my last question is, I've seen, are these designs for the parks finalized? Like there's a final?
Yeah, they've all been through Miracle Play. They submitted them, and then we ran them through the principals at each of the sites too.
The only concern I have is now they have the tent.
Mhm.
And as the years go by, those are going to be.
Yes,
eventually-
there will be replacement for the shade structure portion of it too. So we'll, and that's one of the things we'll do with other parts of the playground equipment. We'll tend to go back and replace swing components or things like that that wear out over time.
Yeah, it is. I wish that, I think we all wish that once we buy something, they would just last for a really long time, right? And it's just like in our cars or everything else that, we have to go through a process of evaluating them and making sure that they're still operable. And so Member Martinez, that's a good highlight in terms of, taking a look at those things and making sure that we have a process for replacement.
Yeah, 'cause I noticed right now, we don't have that.
Mhm.
in the schools, not in that school, so maybe, I don't know, considering saving money.
Right. Those are nice features, but they do have ongoing costs. You're correct that we do keep a routine restricted maintenance budget for replacing things like that over time. So we look at kind of a deferred process of what is the lifespan of something and try to plan for when we'll need to replace those. So that will be added to that.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Okay. Seeing no others, may I please have a first and a second for a motion?
I move that the board approve items 6.2 through 6.6.
Second?
All right. And so we have a first and a second. May I please have a roll call vote?
Member Martinez,
Aye.
Member Pacheco,
Aye.
Vice President Gonzalez,
Aye.
President Hernandez,
Aye.
motion carries.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Superintendent Monzo and Associate Superintendent Evans. It's wonderful to see just so many of these improvements to our campuses. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, and I also want to take an opportunity to acknowledge also Mr. Evans and also his entire team, excuse me, that have been working on that. There's a lot of process for procurement, for just investigating the product, checking if there's piggyback deals for the state that can help get the best pricing. Our Chief Facilities Officer, Mr. Gabriel Altamirano. Many school districts hire a specific and dedicated bond director to do this exclusively, apart from the day-to-day. And so, Mr. Altamirano is super excited and enthusiastic and full of energy. I think that's how it happens when you're really young. And it's just been a great advocate for getting projects into the pipeline and done in order for all of those things to come and benefit kids as soon as possible. And so I want to acknowledge our business office that also has to do a lot of work and procurement and making all things work. So thank you also to all of you, our board, who led the effort in making sure that we put this item on the agenda on a special board meeting back in before we went on break, to have an opportunity to pass this new bond and continue to make improvements to our schools. So thank you also to the board. It's been certainly a collective and team effort. So we're looking forward to all the additional improvements to our schools as we move forward. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Superintendent Monzo, for those closing words. That does conclude our action items of the night, which brings us to our first and only information item of the night. Item 7.1, sale of bonds, 2022 Measure P, Series A. And I believe it is back to you, Associate Superintendent Evans, and then I'll pass it to Superintendent Monzo. if you
Sure,
wanna say a couple words.
just a quick word. Again, I want to acknowledge our board for putting this on the November ballot. As you recall, great support, 66% support from our community. I want to thank our labor partners who also help promote this, OGA, CSCA, and NASME, who help promote our bond measure as well. So all of, again, a collective effort to provide this update that Associate Superintendent will highlight as part of this item.
Yeah, this is just a report out on the bond sale that took place on January 25th. Getting it on the ballot was one thing, but also moving quickly in December to pass the resolution to issue the bonds put us in a very good position to move in January when the market was interested in bonds, but there weren't a lot out available for purchase. So when we went to the market, we actually had 4 or 5 times subscription to what we had to sell, which was beneficial to us because it improved the rates that we had to pay. And while the decimals looked relatively small on $67 million, it has a big impact on our property owners and the taxes that they'll be paying. So that was a very successful sale. This report is to kind of announce that the sale is complete. It closed on February 8th and to share the cost of issuance fees with you. So the attachment there informs you and the public of the cost of issuance. The total bond sale was $67,650,000, and the cost of issuance, which are the transaction fees for the attorneys and the financial advisors and the printing of materials, came in at just under $250,000, and the underwriter's discount came in very similarly. So the total sale of the bonds was $496,300.50, which leaves us with $67,153,699.50, and that actually is in our account. When the deal closed on February 8th, it goes to the county treasurer, and then they transfer it to to our accounts with the County Office of Education. So those dollars are ready to be used and get underway.
And I think just going early also came ahead of when the feds also increased the interest rates, which also helped improve the market for the district as well. So we had an opportunity to save our taxpayers money because we had to pay less interest. And additionally, in the short bond was originally sized, we were projecting 3.5 million. It was able to actually get us an additional $1 million, 4.5 million for that short Series A bond that is dedicated for technology. So all of those dynamics and being able to move quickly and get out to market helped in a number of ways. So again, a great effort from Associate Superintendent Evans and his team in making all of that work. A lot of reading. If you remember those long documents, Mr. Evans spent a lot of time, night reading, pleasure reading to make sure that we were all ready for that sale. So thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So at this time, we can open up to any public comments. Do we have any in-person public comments? Okay, seeing no in-person public comments, are there any virtual?
No virtual comments.
Okay. Any questions or comments from trustees? Okay, thank you so much. That concludes item 7.1, our sale of bonds information item, leading us to correspondence, board discussion, and committee reports. So we will now hear from board members, and I'll open up the floor.
I just want to start off by saying a big thank you to Cecily Vu, because, with the whole mix up with the delegate assembly ballot stuff, you helped out so much by just figuring out a plan and reaching out to every district in the whole county. And I don't know how long that took to research and do, but just know how grateful I am for you. And you just do not just a service to me, but like a service to so many others. And people never say thank you enough. So just thank you for all that you do, not for me, but just for everything.
I want to thank OGA and CTA for a wonderful dinner that they hosted on the 31st of January. It was just a special night. Again, I think to the comment earlier, to meet in a different place and just reflect, gather with other educators, hear of the work, and just the general spirit of OGA and CTA members. So it was just a very wonderful night to spend some time with our OGA community. So I want to just thank you and appreciate the invite, and for those of us who were able to make it. Yeah, thank you.
Recently, myself and board member Hernandez, as well as Superintendent Monzo, were able to get over to Davis and visit. I just want to thank principal, vice principal, everyone who welcomed us, and really just them taking the time to sit down and really discuss things at Davis and give us a perspective from admin and teachers who are there on site every day and see it every day up close. It gave us some good insight. We were able to have, it wasn't just a tour, but we were also able to sit down and have a very lengthy dialogue of what's going on in depth, how we can make things better, and then also, how to change communication and see how we can better communicate what's going on at Davis going forward. So thank you to Davis admin and my colleagues for joining me.
I also want to say thank you to CTA for the dinner that they had a couple weeks ago. There was some delicious chicken. It was very good. I'm not gonna lie. But also I appreciate the executives hard work for everything you guys do in the background. I can't wait to these new additions to kick in. Those cameras, the new parks. I just can't wait to see that happen. And thank you for all you do. And thank you, Superintendent Manzo, for always being there and supporting me. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think with that concludes our correspondence, board discussion and committee reports. I will now have a motion and second to adjourn the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor? Oh, I'm so sorry.
Second to adjourn the meeting.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, seeing none, regular board meeting on February 16th, 2023 is adjourned at 7:31 PM. Have a